Anaerobic respiration. Introduction. Anaerobic means without air. Sometimes there is not enough oxygen around for some organisms to respire, but they still need the energy to survive. And sometimes organisms do not need as much energy as others, and sometimes the condition do not allow for aerobic respiration to run successfully. In these situations, it may be necessary for organisms to run a process known as anaerobic respiration, which is a type of cellular respiration that does not use oxygen to produce energy. Anaerobic respiration takes place only in the cytoplasm and usually occurs in lower plants and microorganisms. Anaerobic respiration is also used by multicellular organisms like us as a temporary response to oxygen-less conditions. During heavy or intensive exercise, such as running, sprinting, cycling, or weightlifting, our body demands high energy. As the supply of oxygen is limited, the muscle cells inside our body resort to anaerobic respiration to fulfill the energy demand. Anaerobic respiration produces a relatively lesser amount of energy as compared to aerobic respiration, but produces the energy more quickly. Products of anaerobic respiration. The final product varies depending on the metabolic pathway involved. For example, in denitrification, the final product is nitrogen. In fumigate respiration, succinate is the final product. In methanogenesis, the final product is methane. In acetogenesis, the final product is acetate. In ion reduction, Fe2 is the final product. In cobalt reduction, the final product is cobalt 2. In dehalorespiration, the final products are halide ions and dehalogenation compound. In fermentation, the final product may be lactic acid or ethanol. Apart from these substances, energy in the form of ATP molecules is also produced. Thus, the two main types of anaerobic respiration is alcohol fermentation and lactic acid fermentation. Alcoholic fermentation. Alcoholic fermentation is a process of converting glucose into the molecule ethanol. This process is generally done by microscopic organisms like bacteria and certain fungi like yeast. The glucose are broken down by glycolysis, releasing two ATP molecules and creating two pyruvic acid molecules. The pyruvic acid molecules then have another carbon atom removed from each, resulting in two ethanol molecules and two carbon dioxide molecules. No more ATP is produced after the initial two from this glycolysis reaction. The carbon dioxide produced as a byproduct when yeast perform alcoholic fermentation on the sugar in the bread mix is the gas that causes dough to rise. The sugars in barley, grapes, and other grains and fruits is what allows yeast to produce the bubbles and alcohol in beer, wine, and other liquids. This process is used to create much of the ethanol that is now being used as a gasoline additive for automobiles. Corn or soybeans are generally used as a source of starch that is then broken down by enzymes into thousands of glucose. These glucose molecules are then introduced to a series of bacteria that perform alcoholic fermentation to produce the ethanol. The idea is to eventually change over all automobiles to be able to run on pure synthetic fuel. Therefore, alcohol fermentation equation is glucose is converted into alcohol plus carbon dioxide plus energy. Lactic acid fermentation. Lactic acid fermentation is a partial breakdown of glucose which produces lactic acid. The process of lactic acid fermentation is what causes your muscles to burn when you do a workout or perform at a high level of physical activity for an extended period of time. Lactic acid fermentation occurs in animals after glycolysis if there is not enough oxygen to perform aerobic respiration. The ATP is produced only during the glycolysis reaction. One 3 carbon molecule, pyruvic acid, is changed into another 3 carbon molecule, lactic acid, and no carbon dioxide is produced like during other forms of respiration. Cramps occur when muscle cells respire anaerobically. The accumulation of lactic acid causes muscle cramps. So, the overall reaction of lactic acid fermentation is glucose is converted into lactic acid plus energy. Advantages of anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration is a speed process. It produces ATP very quickly. Less nutrient is required and it has the ability to transform hazardous solvents. Less energy requirements as no aeration is needed. Ecological importance. Anaerobic respiration is a critical component of the global nitrogen, iron, sulfur, and carbon cycles through the reduction of the oxyanions of nitrogen, sulfur, and carbon to more reduced compounds. The biogeochemical cycling of these compounds, which depend upon anaerobic respiration, significantly impacts the carbon cycle and global warming. Anaerobic respiration occurs in many environments, including freshwater and marine sediments, soil, subsurface aquifers, deep subsurface environments, and biofilms.